racers, and welcome to another live stream. Second live stream for today. I haven't done two in one day for a while, so sharpening my sword a little bit with cranking out the videos. Topic for this afternoon's live stream, though. Hey, James. Topic for this afternoon's live stream is, are lollies good for energy on race day? So it's been around for ages. Motorsport isn't the only thing where people eat lollies, okay, or chocolates and things like that to try and boost energy on race day, particularly at the end of race day when everyone's fucked and the track's really rough. So that's what I'm going to tackle today, because I always talk about nutrition, I talk about eating good food, I talk about maximizing energy, yet you'll see maybe even people on TV that are drinking like flat cans of Coke, okay, or getting sugar in through lollies or through jelly beans. Hey, Bill, through a whole heap of different methods. So I'm going to give you the rundown on that and whether you should be having lollies when you go out and ride and race. So first of all, before I get into the lollies, you need to understand how energy works in the body. Once you do that, then you can make a better decision on whether you should be using lollies or not. Oh, that was a big flash. We've got a thunderstorm coming here in Perth. Hey, Bill. So just give me a like if you're on here as well. I can see there's 6 of you guys on here. Give me a like on the video so I know that you're here. It doesn't give me everyone's names. And I'll give you a shout out as we're going through. So first of all, you need to understand that why you would use lollies on a race day or on a ride day. So when you go and ride, the riding and racing that we do, carbohydrates are our main fuel source, okay? So that's our fuel tank. Now, with those carbohydrates, there's 2 different types. You've got complex carbs and you've got simple carbs, right? And both of those play a different role in your energy for race day. So complex carbs are high in starch and they're not broken down into sugar yet. So all carbs at some stage are broken down into sugar. Hey Josh, what happens though is some carbs, okay, are broken down much quicker and give you a quick spike of energy in a very short period of time. Some carbs give you a lower level spike of energy, but a more consistent level of energy. So complex carbs are high in starch. Because they're high in starch, body needs to break that down into sugar, hey James, to be able to give you energy. And so this takes time and it takes effort. So high starch carbs are things like sweet potatoes, brown rice, quinoa, rice. These are foods that generally take a bit of time to digest and break down. So usually 3 to 4 hours to break down, okay, and digest and use as energy. Now, these carbs are important, but they're not carbs you want to be taking on race day in between rides or in between races. So the complex carbs you want to get in 3 to 4 hours before your first ride of the day. And then you want to get in more complex carbs. It's pissing down outside. Hopefully you guys can hear me okay. Then you want to get your more complex carbs in the night before or the day before racing, okay? So on race day, the last thing you want to be putting in your body is potatoes, brown rice, quinoa, pumpkin, and things like that, breads, okay, even on race day, because it takes 3 to 4 hours to digest that and use as energy. Which means if you're taking that on race day in between rides and races, it's just going to sit in your gut and you're not going to get the energy from it anyway. So that's complex carbs. On the other side is simple carbs. So simple carbs are when the carbs have already been refined and broken down into sugar. So this could be things like fruits, it could be things like carb gels, and that's where lollies would come in, okay, chocolates and stuff like that would come under, hey Troy, would come under simple carbs because it's already in sugar form, okay? They're not high in starch. It doesn't take 3 to 4 hours to break down. It takes anywhere from 15 minutes to 45 minutes to be able to break down simple carbs. So that's the category lollies come into. Now, the reason that you would use a simple carb is because you want a short burst, or you want a quick burst of energy. Understanding that quick burst of energy is only going to be short, okay? So for a riding and racing context, the way I map it out with our races, hey Scott, is what we do is we do complex carbs the night before, complex carbs the morning of race day, 3 to 4 hours, increase complex carbs before the first ride. Then as you're going through the day, so let's say it's a motocross event, roughly half an hour before every race, we either want to get a serving of fruit in or have a carb gel, okay? So we do that before every race, and then after every race, we also get in some carbs with some protein powder as well, a protein shake. For the enduro guys, similar concept, except obviously they're not having races, they're having fuel stops. So every fuel stop or break that they have throughout a race, they will get in a carb gel or they will get in a piece of fruit so that they're ready to rock and roll for the next piece of riding, Okay, as well as they'll have a protein shake as well. So if you're doing something like Hada, which is coming up, it could be every hour, hour and a half, depending on how much fuel you've got and how efficiently you ride. That's when you'll have get your carbs in. If you're doing think, then you'll have literally, I get our guys they will strap on their fuel drums, strap their protein shake together with all the things that they need, whether they need a carb gel, whether they need coconut water, whether they need Powerade, whether they need protein powder, depending on what I've set up with them before they get out there. So that's how organized it is. Now, to answer the question of this live stream, in terms of lollies, do lollies play a part? The problem with taking lollies in is, although they are a simple carb, they're just harder to digest, right? So if you look at the jelly texture of a lolly, they're hard to chew even, right? It takes you a long time to chew. You don't really break down and digest the lollies that you're having. It's more like you take a few bites and then you swallow them whole. So if it's hard for you to be able to chew it, you can imagine what it's like for your digestive system. So when we're on race day and our digestive system's already not working at 100% because we're under physical and mental stress, the last thing we want to do is put more things in. They're going to be an issue. So can they give you energy? Yes, they can. Are they the best option? I would say no, they're not, purely from a digestive point of view. The other thing is there's also a lot of, if you eat fairly well during the week, you're going to be putting a whole heap of shit in your body as well, okay? Like there's a lot of processed things, additives, preservatives that go into making lollies and things like that. So you're not putting you're putting chemicals in your body rather than keeping up all the hard work that you've done during the week. What's the alternative instead? Use a carb gel, okay? Sometimes not always a better option than lollies, but I think they are from a digestive point of view. If you've got a carb gel, much easier for your body to digest and break down and get the sugar that it needs, the simple carbs, without all the other shit that's going in there as well. Same with a carb drink, okay? You can use a carb drink, which is just like powder added to water. Another great option, or use fruit as your simple carb, okay? Have a piece of fruit, have multiple pieces of fruit, have a little fruit salad before you go out there. The reason fruit's okay is because majority of fruit is actually made up of water. Okay, I think I looked at stats, like anything from 80% plus of fruit, depending on the type of fruit, is made up of water. Okay, so you're getting water and sugar through fruit and a little bit of fiber. Well, that's really it. So personally, do I recommend having lollies? No. Go down the carb gel, carb powder route. It's just easier to digest and keeps you on track. If you've been eating well all week, it's going to keep you on track with all that sort of stuff. Is there any questions, guys, since there's a few of you on here? If that was helpful for you, please give the video a like. I'll read out and see who's on here. Rodney, good to have you here. Stuart, good to have you here. Will, good to have you here. Jared James, good to have you here. Thanks for jumping on the call. Is there any questions, though? Anything I can help you guys with? Belinda, good to have you here. Anything I can help you guys with at all? Any questions? Doesn't have to be related to lollies. It can be related to other stuff too. What do we got? Jared, what's a good protein shake to use? So, good question. First of all, there's many different types of proteins that you can get. If you don't have any problems consuming dairy products, you're not allergic to dairy or lactose intolerant, whey protein is the gold standard for protein for what we want to do for recovery. So whey protein is the type of protein, okay? It's a dairy-based protein. That's the one that's shown to be most effective for performance and recovery and blah, 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 okay? That's the gold standard for protein. In terms of brands though, okay, when you're looking at protein, Jared, is different companies make whey protein, okay? And it's kind of like different companies make motorbikes, right? Some motorbikes are better than others. You can buy a cheap 125 off eBay, okay? Or you can buy a KTM 125, right? Or you can buy a whatever else is out there these days. RM 125, if they're even still making them. They're probably the same as they were back in bloody 2000. But, okay, lots of different companies make a 125, but there's different levels of quality. Some good, some bad, and some fucking terrible. And that's the same thing for protein powders. So some good company, I was actually just answering this for one of the writers that I work with now. 3 brands for you guys that sell whey protein in a good quality form would be, the brand is Bulk Nutrients, True Protein, or Professional Whey. Okay, They're the three best brands that I recommend for protein powders. The reason I recommend those companies is they're pure protein. Okay, they're good quality supplements. When you go and buy protein from, say, Coles or Woolworths or from your local supplement store, most of the time they are full of shit. Okay, in terms of there's protein in there, but they're full of fillers. And the way that you can tell that they're full of fillers is because they have to disclose all of the ingredients that go into their products. Okay, as part of Australian standards. If you have a look on the back of the packet, all the ingredients are listed in there and what's in it. And what will happen is you will have a look at those packets and it'll say protein on the front, and you'll look at the ingredients on the back and go, what the fuck, right? It'll look like a shopping list on the back. So that's how you can tell. But otherwise, just use the three brands I've given you. They'll be cheaper. They'll deliver to your door. And you know you're getting good stuff. James Eldridge, any gels you would recommend? Actually, no, James. I don't have any gels I can recommend. Personally, like for myself, I don't use gels. I use carbohydrate drink. The one that I've got at the moment is from True Protein, and the product's called Endurance. So that's just a powder. It's literally like pure sugar that you pour in water, and it tastes quite good, obviously, because pure sugar tastes quite good. I think I've got the lemon one. Gels, personally, I haven't had too much experience with gels. A lot of our guys do use gels, and I recommend it for them. But me personally, I don't use them, so I don't really have a recommendation for them. But really, anything that comes in an easy pouch that you can chuck in your pack. The only reason you use a gel over water is usually if you're going on longer rides, James. Like if you're doing Think or doing longer enduro rides, it's not always easy to bring a shake with you and bring powder and stuff like that. And sometimes it gets hot and all the rest of it. Gels are just easier to keep. You can get them in the little pouches. You don't have to worry about temperature too much and mixing shit up and having water splashing all over the place. So that probably wasn't too helpful for you, James. But yeah, whatever's out there. Really, I mean, when it comes to carb gels, it's going to be a shit ton of sugar in there. That's really what's happening. So as long as you look at the ingredients and it's got like sugar in there, then you're going to be good to go. Not sure if that helps you or not, James. Stuart, what do we got here? Is beans good for you? All right. It's a bit of a vague question for me. I rate all foods on a scale of 1 to 10. 1 being food's absolutely terrible for you, 10 out of 10 being you've got your own paddock that you've rotated cows and cattle off every few years and let the grass grow back naturally without giving it any pesticides or fertilizers. And then everything else comes in between. Beans, if they're fresh beans and you've cooked them freshly or brought them freshly, then yeah, fine. If you're getting them out of a can, then probably not. They're going to be lower on that scale because they're going to be highly processed. There's going to be preservatives in there. There's going to be a whole heap of chemicals that are shoved in there to keep them in the can for so long. That's why they don't expire. So pretty much anything that doesn't have an expiry date is no good most of the time. Okay, 99% of the time. And the reason that is because if it's not expiring, then how is it staying good for so long, right? The reason it stays good for so long is because there's a lot of preservatives and chemicals in there. And that means your body's consuming those preservatives and chemicals. So it's like throwing little bits of sickness at your immune system, at your body, when you take in a whole heap of chemicals and preservatives. So you definitely want to cut those out of your diet. But yeah, beans in general, yeah, go for it. Dale, good to have you here. 2 chats in one day, lucky you. Jared, awesome. I'll throw the Musashi protein out and look into the bulk nutrients one. Yeah, that's what when I first started taking protein and getting into supplements and all that stuff like 10, 11 years ago, that's the one I had. I had Musashi. I was 68 kilos at the time, and I was trying to put on weight, and I had the mass builder. But most of those companies are just full of shit. And you can see for yourself. Okay, not saying that there may be some good brands that are out there. I haven't found them at the supermarket. That's why I buy everything online. But yeah, most of them have just got a lot of fillers in them. And the other reason they do that as well is protein's expensive to make in comparison to random chemicals, right? And random shit. So what they do to fill up the bag, they put a bit of protein in there, and then they put all this other stuff in there, and you wouldn't be able to tell the difference because it's all in the same bag, but you're not getting the whole thing's not protein. Okay, there's a lot of shit in there, which is more of a cost cutting thing, which is why I recommend those 3 brands. Hopefully that helps, Jared. Hey Ben, Matthew, good to have you guys here. Adam Henderson, good to have you here. You said no, just fruit. I don't know. Hey Shane, I'm not sure if that's a question for me, Adam. I didn't see anything else come through that you sent, unless it didn't come through for some reason. I feel like I'm going cross-eyed here looking at this bloody screen. Or are you answering you might be answering the question that I put in the title. Lollies good. And you said no, just fruit. Good stuff. I think that's what's happened. Good on you. Good to hear from you, Adam. Haven't heard from you for ages. Any other questions, guys? Anything else at all? If you've enjoyed the video so far and you're new and you haven't liked it already, please give it a like. Helps to spin it around Facebook and actually get some writers seeing it. So hopefully they can implement it for this weekend. Cool. So Jared James, also, what's your thoughts for type 1 diabetic as I am eating for Hatter? Got to watch the sugar spike. Well, I can't give you advice specifically for type 1 diabetic, not because I don't want to help, but because I'm not qualified in that area. It's more of a medical area. You really have to be qualified as a nutritionist in those specific areas to be able to give you recommendations specifically for type 1 diabetes. What I can say though, from a strength and conditioning perspective, just a general overall perspective, is energy system still works the same way. It's just that you need to be focusing on fueling your body for performance. Okay, so it's making sure that we're putting in the right types of carbs in the right orders, and making sure that we've got a consistent flow of energy throughout the race day, from the day before and on the day. A lot of it is pre-preparation. Okay, it's making sure that you've done the right things to maximize your energy before race day to make sure that you have a consistent energy spike throughout the day. Okay, so if a rider, for example, has trouble where their energy is spiking too highly or too quickly, and they want to have it more, they need to have it more consistent, then what they would do is they would avoid simple carbs, okay, and maximize complex carbs. So again, like the complex carbs I said at the start, they're your more consistent energy like this. When you have simple carbs, that's when you get a quick spike like this. Okay, so you need to make based on the energy that a rider needs, they need to make the decision on that, on which works, which is going to work for them. Hopefully that helps you there, Jared, without me getting in the shit. Oh, cool. All good, Adam. Always good for energy. Good stuff, Adam. Any other questions, guys? Anything else I can help you guys with? What do we got? Any other questions while I'm here? I've got to go and train soon. We've got a thunderstorm outside, and I'm going to be going outside and training. But I'll answer some questions before I go and do that. What do we got? Any questions at all? And by the way, since there's a few of you on here, any of you guys are interested in working with me and doing some coaching, or you'd like some help with your training and how to fuel yourself for racing, like Dale has, and a few of the other guys that are on here at the moment, feel free to reach out and send me a private message. Let me know what you're working towards with your riding and your racing, and I'll see if I can help. Awesome, Jared, sweet. Any other questions, guys, from anyone else? What do we got? Anything else I can help with? Training, riding, racing, nutrition? Rodney, just like to say thanks for your guidance. My son is benefiting on race day. Awesome, man. Sweet. I'm glad to hear it's helping, Rodney. Matthew, what are some good ways to eat wanting to do multiple 4-hour enduros? That's a very vague question, but again, I'll try my best to answer it for you. You need to have a nutrition system. So if you're wanting to do a 4-hour enduros, you're wanting to do like Hatter, wanting to do Transmotos, wanting to do Pony Express events or cross-country events, or if it's extreme enduro events that are roughly 4.5 hours long, then and I was chatting to someone else about this the other day. One of the riders I work with. It's up to you how far you take the things that I recommend for you, like in terms of all the stuff that I put out. So, like again, on a scale of 1 to 10, it depends how seriously you take your racing, right? So 10 out of 10 being you live and breathe racing and that's all you do and you don't really give a shit about anything else. Racing is everything. To 1, you could not care less about racing and riding at all, right? In that case, you probably ride once every 6 months. And then there's everyone in between, right? So it's up to you guys how seriously you take your racing and how much effort and time that you put into improving it. So when you say like, what are some good ways to eat? Well, you could take what I've said so far and just implement like have a piece of fruit at every fuel stop, okay? And that might be improvement, and that might be a level 2 or level 3 level of commitment to racing. But if you go right down the other side and you're working towards an 8, a 9, or a 10 out of 10, Matthew, then there's so many things you can look at. It's like, okay, what are you eating before every ride? What are you eating after every ride? How are you fueling yourself at fuel stops? How many grams of protein are you taking in? How many grams of carbs are you taking in at each stop? How much carbs, what are you having for your meal 4 hours before a race? How are you recovering after race day? How are you doing your meal preparation the day before race day? How are you portioning out different macros? So how do you portion out proteins, fats, carbs, and veggies for each meal? How much water should you be taking in every day? How should you be adding salt to your water? Should you be boosting electrolytes? Should you be having more Powerade, less Powerade, coconut water, more water, less water? There's a million different things that you could work on going to the 4 hours, and that's just a little bit on the nutrition side, right? Then there's the nutrient timing, which I already talked about, and then same thing for recovery. It's like, okay, how many hours are you sleeping? How consistent are you sleeping? How deep is your sleep going? How deep are your sleep cycles? How are you recovering from training sessions? And then there's the training side. Then there's, okay, well, how are you training? What are you doing for training? How often are you training? What sets are you using? What reps are you using? What exercise are you using? What order do you put those exercises in? How do you decide which exercises to use? What rest periods do you use for each of those exercises? What order do you put those exercises in for each session? How do you decide what volt or what quantities of each exercise you do, or how often you do an exercise in a specific week? How long do the training sessions go for? How many is too many sets? How many is not enough sets? How big are the conditioning pieces? How many intervals should we do? How many long distance pieces? How many shorter distance pieces? How many rides should you go for every week? Like, you know what I mean? There's so many different things. Like once you unpack it all, there's so many different things that you can work on and improve, depending on the level of, hey David, depending on the level of commitment that you have to your racing. So to actually give you some helpful advice is in terms of eating is you need to decide how seriously you want to take it. So a lot of riders will look at racing as like a once-off thing. It's like, oh, I'm racing this weekend. What do I need to do to get hydrated? What do I need to do to eat well and have more energy? And the truth is, they shouldn't just be racing things. They should be things you're doing every day. Because if you're more hydrated, you perform better at training. You perform better at training, then you perform better when you go and ride. If you get more energy before you go and practice, hey Jason, and before you go and train, you train harder. Okay, if you put more focus on recovery of training and recovering well and doing active recovery and reducing soreness for training, you recover better from training. You have better quality training sessions, which means you improve your riding. So hey Brendo, so there's so many different areas that you can work on to improve. It's not just about, most of the time, it's not just about doing things specifically well for race day. It's about doing them well. What are some things you can do well all of the time to improve your riding? Because then you can improve everything. You can improve your training, improve your practice, as well as improving your racing as well. So that's the short version. The long version is work with me. Okay, do our motorsport development program. That's where I map everything out with you. We do check-in calls every week so we can monitor and change things. We can go through the structure of racing together, map out all of your training, and that's like the full-blown 10 out of 10. That's where we do all 3 1-hour blocks of training, all mapped out, all the exercise, all the sets, all the reps, all monitored, and same with your food to make sure that everything's on target for race day. But if you're not at that stage yet, then even just implementing what I've talked about so far in today's video is going to put you further ahead than where you are at the moment. So hopefully that helps, Matthew. Hey, Leo. Any other questions, guys? Anything else I can help with? Any other questions at all? Training, riding, racing, fitness? Makes sense. Might send you a message for a chat. Cool, man. Just let me know what you're let me know which events you're wanting to work towards and what you're wanting to do, and then we'll go from there. Anything else, guys? Any other questions? Anything else I can help you guys with? Any questions at all? Doesn't have to be related to lollies. For those of you that are interested as well, I've been putting up some of my videos off Facebook on YouTube. So I know these videos I do on Facebook, truthfully, I do them on Facebook because it's easy. When it comes to like camera setup and all this stuff, that's not really my jam. I like coaching and talking about training, but for people to watch videos, they need to have everything look half decent. Otherwise, people don't watch them. So that's why I do them on Facebook. But I know for most of you, when you watch longer videos and things like that, you probably go on YouTube. So you can go over to YouTube. I think it's YouTube, just type my name in. Just type in Andrew Hammer, I think, in YouTube, and it will come up. If you want to watch some of these videos on YouTube, I've started putting them up there, so you can watch them on there as well, if that's a bit easier for you. All right, cool. That's it. Doesn't look like there's any more questions. That's all we got. All right, cool, sweet. Well, I appreciate you guys jumping on board and supporting the videos. That's the reason I do them, because I enjoy seeing you guys make progress. I enjoy seeing you guys jump on the videos that I put together, because they do take a bit of time, effort, and orchestration to make sure I'm not talking about the same shit all the time and look at things from different angles. So I appreciate you guys following. As I said, any of you guys are after help with your training, feel free to send me a private message. Otherwise, look forward to putting another video together tomorrow, Friday, and off to the weekend. Sweet. See you guys.